Join me as we talk all things true crime.
Made contact and shattered.
The missing 4-year-old. The parents have called in and advised that the mother has went through a wall, came home, now they can't find her.
Turn it over to another agency.
Chad, where are Lori's kids? They've been missing for 4 months. You have nothing to say?
4 were stabbed multiple times and were likely asleep during the attack. Some had defensive wounds.
Most of them had just like one that was the lethal stab wound.
Oh, what a tangled web we weave. Once I told a lie, and I told my family, I had to keep lying.
What's your, is it deemed?
We haven't cleared anybody.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for being here on a Friday night ATS News live stream. We are covering a few breaking news stories tonight because we have gotten a little behind in some of the stuff that we've been following or that has come out because we have digged back into the Watts Island. So I only go live 2 days a week. So the Watts live stream kind of takes up the other slot. So I've kind of combined a few breaking news things to talk about tonight. So we'll start with Savanah and Matthew, a story that I've been following, especially watching Alex Erickson's coverage of it and other people's coverage of it. But it's something that I kind of waited to get some more official information on. And luckily there's been an arrest. And it was sort of shocking to see that, you know, the person who was arrested and involved in this is so young themselves. It's just a sad case. It's very much senseless. I guess that's the only thing that I can describe it as. It's just unfortunate, sad, and senseless how young and, you know, they're just very much in a position that we were all at, unless you guys are around their age, but I know that I'm not. But looking back at myself around their age, you know, we all did stupid things, and unfortunately they made some decisions in their life and it led to this unfortunate event. But hopefully there's justice on its way. We're going to look at some highlights in the press conference that was out today and the PCA information on this defendant and the father, who is an aide in this crime. So we'll look at that first, and then we're going to talk about Epstein, and then we're going to follow up with the jodihildebrant, rubyfranke stuff. We've dug into that as well. Let me say hi, Mac J. I see, yeah, let's unpack that. Seth is here, the analyst, Adrian, Melmac, Johnny. Hello, everybody. Thank you for being here. Caroline, good to see you. Tony, hello. So we're going to just jump right into it. And thank you guys for being here. If you haven't hit the like button, I'd appreciate if you could do that right now. And subscribe, of course. So let me just share an article that I kind of want to start with, I think. Hold on. Actually, sorry, I'm just sharing my screen. Let's start here. This will give us some highlights and just background information on the case. I have followed this case in my Facebook group. I will link that in the description box. In case I don't touch on cases on YouTube, we are discussing them in Facebook.
And good afternoon. It's probably safe to say there were about 5 new developments that came out of this press conference, which wrapped up just a few minutes ago. The big one right off of the top, the gun they believe to be used in that triple murder just before Christmas has been recovered from the home of Ramon and Christopher Preciado on Charlie Chan. That was the first development that Chief McManus summarized for us. He also said that they have added charges for altering a human corpse to both the father and son.
So during the search warrant, they found the gun that was used. The defendant, his name's Christopher, he had no criminal history and was stupid enough to keep his gun that he used and brought it home. They have recovered it. The father had a criminal history back in the 90s, but there wasn't anything recent for him in a long time. So I thought that that was interesting. And again, I want to ask you guys and replay viewers, if your son or daughter did what Christopher did and they called you and said, hey, can you meet me in this parking lot? I need help cleaning this stuff up. I mean, we've seen it in other cases. How would you guys react?
We had seen that the father had attempted to post bond on his charges, which were lesser than what the son is facing. They now have that additional charge of altering a corpse. District Attorney Joe Gonzalez also took part in this press conference. He said they do not believe that the father, Ramon, aided, assisted, or abetted in the murder of Savannah Soto or Matthew Guerra. That's an important point because that is why he has not been charged with capital murder at this point. He was not essentially part of the initial murder, and according to the district attorney's office and what we've heard from police so far, came in later and helped move those bodies. The fourth development that was brought up to us, the chief would not comment on whether or not the mother of Christopher Preciado has been questioned by SAPD officers. There was additional activity at their home in the last couple of days. He would not go into details on whether or not the mother specifically has been questioned.
So already that's something that, and yes, it was Aiden Fucci's mother who helped him clean that up. Another horrible crime that was out of Florida. The person in that truck, you know, that image of them handing off looked like a towel. A lot of people have been wondering who handed Roman that towel. Is it the wife, Christopher's mother, or is it the brother? I've heard people speculate on. So again, just something very interesting that people want answers to. And I don't think that it's kind of solid to say whose arm that is. We've all kind of been zooming in and stuff, but it's just there was something that they just didn't want to answer when it came to other people involved. Other people are thinking that it is. Now, the thing about the PCA, the defendant, Christopher, the suspect, the person who's been arrested for this crime, pretty much came out with this BS story and scenario that it was a self-defense struggle, and that Matthew pulled a gun on him, and then he had to struggle with it and shot Savannah in the process. And then again, he aimed it at him, or Matthew aimed it at Christopher, and there was another struggle. And then in the process of self-defense, he shot Matthew. And everyone is just saying that that's BS, and that experts, including in the PCA, law enforcement, have said that that doesn't match the ballistics and the evidence at the scene. All of that, the angles, the trajectory, the shell casings that fall out of the gun, all of that comes into play when they're lining out what exactly happened. So it's interesting that they got Christopher, who again is only 19. He had no criminal history. He, in his interview, pretty much admits to shooting them, but then tries to switch it up and say, oh, it was self-defense. And like many people who have studied this so far has said, if it was self-defense, if this was a scenario where they had pulled it on you, wouldn't you, as that person, call the cops immediately and been like, I was just attacked in self-defense, like I had to shoot them, please come to the scene, you know? There was nothing like that. So I think that it's safe to say that they were lying in their interview, but at the same time, it's good that he admitted that he did shoot them, regardless of his excuse. He's saying it was self-defense. Now it's a scenario where if this goes to trial, they will put him on the stand, and he's going to have to explain what exactly happened in that little struggle that he's claiming.
In connection to this triple murder. And then the fifth development, this was a question that we asked the chief directly about whether Ramon Preciado was thrown a towel from another person in his truck prior to wiping down Guerra's sedan. They had released that surveillance video, that clip of the car pulling into the apartment complex. And then what we've been told is Ramon Preciado pulling up in his Silverado truck. it does appear, based on the video, which again was shot from a far distance away, that somebody, another person in that truck, tosses the father a towel prior to wiping down the car that belonged to Matthew Guerra. Here is what Chief McManus had to say about that potential development. Small part of the scene.
Yeah, that's something we're still looking into. It's something that's been brought up in conversation about this, so we're still looking into that.
So that could potentially be a third suspect or someone that was there while the bodies were dropped off at the apartment.
As the investigation continues, it could be. I'm not saying it is. I'm just saying it is possible.
Why the father, Ramon Preciado, is not charged with capital murder. Someone can be charged with murder if that person is directly responsible because that person either intentionally or knowingly caused the death of the individual, or that person can be charged with as a party to a murder. But under Texas law, the only way that someone can be charged as a party is that that person has to aid, assist, encourage, or abet the commission of the offense intended. As far as we know, there is no evidence to indicate that the father was involved in the murder.
And that 90-day clock to indict the Preciados has officially begun for the Bexar County District Attorney's Office. So you can expect a formal indictment, potentially new charges. We could see what exact capital murder charge will come against the son, most likely sometime this spring. Reporting live at Public Safety Headquarters, Dylan Collier, KSAT 12 News.
We're going to cover up some of these.
And unfortunately, just some other things that came out as developing information was being spoken on through the PCA and the press conferences. It was discovered through family interviews with police that they had known that Matthew and Savannah were involved in this type of drug dealing, and that they were advertising their weed and money that they made on social media and Telegram, and that Matthew's family had known that there'd been attempted robberies and he had been shot at before. So it's just another development that came out that was just kind of like heartbreaking. But at the same time, it's like, what can you do when your kids are past the age of you being able to control them? And, you know, it's sad that he fell into this lifestyle, because the lifestyle only leads to a few places, right? Prison, and then this scenario here. Hello, Roxanne, and everyone else who has joined. Thank you guys for being here. So again, I don't want to victim shame, but let's face it, when you're making quick money like that, when you're chasing this type of lifestyle, unfortunately, there's consequences and a sense and level of danger that other people don't face because they're not wrapped up in that lifestyle, you know? So it's just a tragedy. She was 9 months pregnant. Day later, she was going to be induced. You know, were they in a position where they thought like, okay, well, once we have this child, we're going to step away from this lifestyle and we're going to change? Did his family maybe think that that was going to take place too? Once he became a father, everything would just kind of slow down and he wouldn't act this way. Unfortunately, it's a situation where we just don't know if that would ever have taken place, because he wasn't given the chance to kind of change his ways, I guess you could say. Hello, Kay Braze. Good to see you. So this was just a little clip. I think you guys might have seen it. It's, you know, again, TikTok was all over the place with this case, coming out with information that just wasn't accurate. People were saying that they were tied up, etc. It didn't seem like any of that was true. So again, I really like to wait until official statements are made, and now we have an official arrest. And it's stunning to kind of see the father in this clip. So I just want to share this little bit, and then the one of Christopher as well. And a lot of people thought that there was a female involved. It's just, it's interesting and unfortunate how people kind of go down these avenues that actually aren't the avenue that needs to be taken. And then nobody apologizes for it. They just kind of act like, oh, that didn't happen. We didn't blame all these other people. So again, TikTok, not my most favorite source of information, but I did like to see this little clip.
What Ramon Prachado says doesn't sit right with me.
Any messages for the family? You sorry? They want to know why. Why did you sorry? Did you know she was pregnant? That's what you say? Huh? You didn't care? Why was it close to Christmas? Remorse, eh? Why, man? You need remorse? You sorry?
Ain't you sorry for lying about what you're saying? You don't even know what's going on.
Tell
You
us.
just make stuff up like always.
Tell us. What's going on? Did you shoot them?
Are you in a video? Did you kill them or did you just hide the evidence? ¿Quién mató a Savannah?
How'd you know Savannah?
Now, some of the information that also came out is they believe that this took place in a different location and that the shooter dragged Matthew. They had something was mentioned about markings or scrapes on his back. So it indicates that, he was dragged and then thrown in the back seat. And then the perpetrator drove the vehicle, met up with his father here. And that's when we see some evidence try to get kind of like cleaned up. And then they ditched the vehicle in that parking lot and it wasn't found for 5 days. So another thing that I felt was interesting was they had Savannah's cell phone the entire time. And I'm under the impression that they got information from her phone, maybe communications with her phone and Christopher. I don't want to come out and say it as a fact, but it does seem like she kind of had a heavier role in this sort of drug dealing situation. Whereas before I was wondering, why was she with him? What were they doing? Now it seems like there might be a storyline where she was kind of a participant in this meetup, maybe was communicating with Christopher herself. Again, we're going to have to wait for those details. A detail that I did want to clarify that I think is important too, and again, you guys might not feel the same way, and there is room for it to be true, but from what we know so far, he was not in a gang. That, according to a retired detective who you guys know as Duty Ron, he spoke on his opinion, and he felt like if he was a member of a gang, that it would have been mentioned in the PCA. Again, this is something that could still develop and come out as factual that, like, yes, he was actually a part of blah, blah, blah. But just right now, that has not come out. It's been official, and we've acknowledged that, like, yes, they did sell drugs. It's mentioned weed was a whole thing about this meetup, marijuana, but a lot of people are saying that that's BS and that all this could not have happened just over marijuana. That's another thing we're going to have to just wait to see details on. But I think that it's important to kind of clarify because a lot of people are kind of linking him in this like gang world, and maybe it was a situation where like he'd hoped to be seen that way. Other people have said that, he gave off this persona, but it really wasn't, he wasn't in a gang. So I don't know. I just think that we can't just assume everyone that sells drugs, lives in that neighborhood, and is a Hispanic is part of some gang. It might come out that he was, but I'm just saying, I think that it's important to kind of acknowledge that nothing official has said that Savanah and Matthew were part of a gang. And, at least give them that type of integrity or that type of truth and not run with rumors in that aspect. Yes, they were involved in unsatisfactory behaviors. And, there was a lot of questions of why people didn't call the cops if they heard gunshots going off, because they're saying that this took place somewhere else. It might be a situation where because it was in the car that the windows and stuff kind of muffled some sort of sound, Or it could be a situation where in my old city, I lived in Syracuse, New York for a long time. Last year, there was 21 murders related to gang activity. 60% of them were involved with guns. And I've seen it firsthand where this situation takes place sometimes in broad daylight, and the neighborhoods turn a blind eye. They don't want to come forward. So did somebody hear these gunshots and just think, I'm not going to say anything? Did they hear these gunshots and they're just desensitized to saying something? Or was it a situation where just nobody heard anything? I just think that sometimes certain communities make a point not to get cops involved. So when it comes to like, why did it take so long to find them? It might just be something like that. But I feel like it was still sort of a quick arrest personally. So again, we've established that we don't think that this is self-defense. At least I don't think. It's going to come out that it wasn't as well, like with evidence and all that. So let's see what this little TikTok was. This is also from them, the press asking them questions.
How do you know Savannah? You sorry?
If it wasn't you, who was it then?
Yeah, that's the thing, Johnny. That's where I'm like, is it going to come out that they're going to say, yes, he was a part of this affiliation? Or is it like you said, like, he was over there and I seen you discuss it on your channel earlier. He was throwing up gang signs and photos. And we all seen this sort of persona that he put off on social media. It's like, I know, well, I don't know them personally, but I've seen it firsthand where people do that. They throw up hand signals and it looks like gang signals and all that, but they're just some dishwasher that you work with, and they're not in a gang. They're not some big baller. So I don't know exactly his level of street credit or all that, but he was making good cash. We've seen the cash. There were attempted robberies and shootings at him prior. So maybe there was some sort of gang level that he had or was on the way to being that way. But I just want to reiterate that because people are just speaking as if it's a fact, and we just don't know that exactly yet. Sorry, it's being glitchy. Hang on.
How do you know Savannah? You sorry?
If it wasn't you, who was it then?
Hi, Chase. Good to see you. I don't know why it's being glitchy. Here comes Christopher.
Are you sorry for what happened? Anything to say to your family? How does it make you feel, an unborn baby? What do you want to say to your family, to Savannah, to Matthew's family?
You sorry? You sorry?
Nothing to say, an unborn child.
It was an entire family.
You sorry?
I don't think he's sorry personally. They kept asking him and the father that. I don't think either of them are sorry. I think they're sorry they got caught and they're sorry they're so stupid. Okay, let's see what else. Oh, this kind of had some highlights It's only 3 minutes. It's not the whole press conference. I know everyone's kind of been playing the whole press conference. This was just 3 interesting minutes that I want to share with you guys.
It's too early to tell. I don't know whether or not this is something that we will make that decision. We'll cross that bridge when we get to it. As in every other case where we have a defendant who is death penalty eligible, we have a capital crimes committee that will meet, that will make, we will hear a presentation from the lead prosecutor in the court where this case ends up, and then we will discuss the facts that go into making a decision to seek the death penalty. But again, it is too early to tell. We don't want to put the cart before the horse. Let's wait till we get an entire case filed in our office. And once that happens, I anticipate that we will have indictments returned, but we have to wait and let a grand jury make that decision. But after that, then we will take it to the next level and excuse me, make whatever decisions that we need to. Thank you very much.
I'll take a few questions.
For the gun that was recovered at the suspect's home, have you guys done any tests on ballistics on the gun to see if there's any other connection to crimes?
I will just say that we believe it's the gun that was used in the murder. As far as the testing and the ballistic results go, I'm not sure what they have yet.
Can you help clear something up on the surveillance video? We've had a lot of people reach out. It appears as if someone tosses the towel to Ramon Preciado before he wipes down the door on the sedan. Is that how it played out? What can you tell us about that small part of the scene?
Yeah, that's something we're still looking into. It's something that's been brought up in conversation about this, so we're still looking into that.
So that could potentially be a third suspect or someone that was there while the bodies were dropped off.
As the investigation continues, it could be. I'm not saying it is. I'm just saying it is possible.
If someone was there, if there was a second person in that truck, could they be charged with essentially moving the bodies? Is that
they could be, but I mean that's something that would be determined once the level of that person's involvement is understood, if that is the case at all.
We saw videos of police activity in the house of Preciados where you take the mom. Are you questioning her?
I'm going to leave that question unanswered. Okay.
So him leaving that question unanswered has people speculating that perhaps it was the mother who handed the towel to the father and in that footage. But again, we just don't know that for sure.
Okay. Thank you, everybody.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
Sorry, can you go over the charges one more time on each one of them?
Sure. So the additional charges that were filed were for Ramon. Christopher was arrested on a capital murder charge. Ramon was arrested on a charge of abuse of a corpse. Yesterday, Christopher was also charged with abuse of a corpse. And he and Ramon were charged with altering, destroying, or concealing evidence.
As far as the capital murder charges, would it be 1, 2, 3? Do you know about how many charges that Christopher would face? It involves all of that. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, and any further questions you have, you might want to just refer to the affidavit, arrest affidavit. Okay.
And we kind of summed up a lot of the important information, the affidavit, the PCA. So I'm not going to read that to you guys. I do want to share a little bit of the court TV segment on this. I think that they obviously do good information. So hold on. Let me just pull that up. And again, thank you guys for being here. Just hit that like button if you wouldn't mind. I appreciate it.
Now to the big breaking news out of Texas that we continue following. 2 arrests have been made for the murders of pregnant Savannah Soto and her boyfriend. The San Antonio Police Department announcing early this morning that 19-year-old Christopher Preciado and his father, Ramon Preciado, have been arrested for the murders of Savannah Soto and her boyfriend, Matthew Guerra. Now, police...
Wow, court TV. Hang on. Gotta let them know I'm okay with it. Why won't it let me do anything?
Following, 2 arrests have been made
All
for
right,
the
guys.
murders of pregnant teenager Savannah Soto and her boyfriend. The San Antonio Police Department announcing early this morning that 19-year-old Christopher Preciado and his father, Ramon Preciado, have been arrested for the murders of Savannah Soto and her boyfriend, Matthew Guerra. Now, police believe that Christopher, the son, is the one who did the murders. That's what they believe. And they believe his father just helped him after the fact, moving the bodies. So their charges are different. Son charged with murder, dad charged with abuse of a corpse. Now, Savannah Soto was last seen in mid-December, one day before she was scheduled to be induced. She and her boyfriend's remains were found days later inside of his Kia Optima. We've been looking at that video since then. It's been quite puzzling. Police are saying this morning that they believe the murders are the result of a drug deal that turned deadly. I have 2 great guests on the program to help me break this all down. Still with me, retired NYPD Deputy Inspector and the author of the book, Once a Cop, Corey Pegues. And want to welcome in retired FBI Special Agent Jennifer Coffendorfer. Great to see you both this morning. Thank you for being here. Oh boy. There has been some speculation that this might have been a drug deal that went unexpectedly awry and turned fatal. Jennifer, I know you've been following this very, very closely. I enjoy following you on Twitter or X always, but you know, you've been analyzing this one. Tell me.
Thank you so much for being here. I seen Mark chime in. Hello. So I wanted to pause it real quick and just ask you guys, how many of you guys were starting to think like, was this like cartel related? That was I mean, I had that thought for a second only because it was kind of being taking a minute for an arrest or for information to come out. So I thought like maybe they were working with Homeland Security or something like that, or FBI or something. But I thought that that was a possibility, but I'm relieved that no cartel has been mentioned at all. That was another TikTok and Facebook social media rumor that was going on around. I mean, people were stating it as a fact. So I think that that was another reason why I was kind of getting confused. Like, so is this that? Come to find out it wasn't, it seems. But other people were also saying that they thought it was cartel related because of the brutality of it. Murdered pregnant woman and her boyfriend. For me, I don't mean to kind of say that they don't do stuff. Obviously, the cartel will do brutal stuff like that. But for me, I've seen it just in neighborhoods in the US where a pregnant woman and her boyfriend are involved in this type of lifestyle and drug deal, and she gets shot. I mean, for me, it wasn't surprising that it could be cartel related or it was just a drug deal gone wrong. So I don't know how you guys were kind of feeling about all that.
Was this what you expected investigators to find here? Why or why not, please?
Yes, I expected it to have to do with a drug deal gone bad. I think I said that very early, likely gang related in terms of the players involved. Clearly, when we hear the words, a botched drug deal gone bad, what does that mean? What that means is that somebody wasn't living up to their end of the bargain. Either the amount of drugs being sold was off or the money that was being brought was off. One of those two things. And this isn't just like purchasing, vitamins from your girlfriend next door. This turns deadly and can turn deadly. First of all, it was late at night. I would believe, even though we'll never know, but likely Mr. Preciado was likely under the influence. So you have people who are under the influence dealing with one another. And then you also have that street cred. the disrespect that when this drug deal went wrong, went down and turned deadly.
Right, Jennifer, great points. I have a clip I want to play, and Corey, I'm coming to you next after this, please. This is a clip of Savannah Soto's mother, who joined closing arguments with Vinnie Politan last night, and she did the interview with Vinnie before the announcement of the arrest, so that came later. But here in this clip, she's talking about Savannah's relationship with her boyfriend, Matthew Guerra, and of course, many of us are wondering, did anybody know that this was going on, that he was into these dealings, apparently? Let's watch.
They had a kind of like a little rough relationship in the beginning. She said it was getting better. They were both looking for the baby. I mean, we had a baby shower for her. They were there, and opening the gifts, all excited, playing games. It was like any normal couple. I mean, about his private, I don't really know anything about him, but I mean, my daughter was happy with him.
She said she didn't really know anything about him, so who knows the extent of what she knew or didn't know about these activities. Corey Pegues, you have such unique experience because you retired from the NYPD after many years of service at such a high rank, and your story I have mad respect for. When you were young, and you talk openly about this, you talk about it in your book, when you were young, before you went into the military and became a police officer, you were on the streets dealing drugs, and so you have a really interesting perspective of the dangers of it. And for anybody who might think, oh, I can dabble in this or be associated with someone dabbling in it or have a family member associated with it, these risks of fatal incidents are very, very real. Are they not? Would you speak to that, please, Corey?
Oh, it's very real. Being in the street is either dead or in jail. So, I call an old drug dealer. If you got more than 5 years, then you're like ancient. Usually, if you get in 2 to 3 years out there selling drugs, you made a little money, you better escape. Because now, cops are just using this thing right here. They're solving crimes very quickly. Let me just touch on one of the things the mother said. I was uncomfortable with her saying there was a normal relationship. Well, I don't know what's normal with her daughter being in this relationship with this known drug dealer. I think they had a domestic violence history, if I'm not mistaken. And you have to know what your children are doing. I remember when my 2 older daughters were teenagers and they wanted locks on the bedroom door. And I was like, you're not paying no rent. What do you mean locks on the door? You can't, no bedrooms have locks on them. And I used to put money in the dresser. So they knew that I was going through their dresser drawer.
Yeah, we never were allowed to lock our doors at all growing up. Again, thank you all for being here. Sue, I saw you just come in. Good to see you.
I was going through their book bag. Like, you have to know what your children are doing. So I don't think it's anything normal with somebody dealing with somebody who has a violent past and also assaulted the child at one time.
I love that. I love what you said there. And let's keep going on this point. I mean, look, this is so sad that these young people lost their lives, that unborn baby, killed. Also, I'm sure we could expect charges coming with respect to the baby that hadn't been born yet.
I do want to say his name was Fabian. So I think it's important. Like, I know we're all calling her pregnant and she was about to be induced, blah, blah, blah. But you know what? I just want to say his name. I think it's a cute name. And we don't have to just refer to him as the baby. He's Fabian.
But tell me, what can parents do? If somebody's watching this program this morning, we know that drug use, drug dealing, sadly, it's very common. We have a lot of problems in our country with it. I don't have to tell you both that What advice do you have for any parents who might suspect something's going on with the kids? Jennifer, let me go back to you on that point, please.
Well, it becomes very difficult, especially in this situation where your child is 18 years old, like Savannah was. So she's really a grown adult, if you will, legally. But I think all you can do really early on is show show discipline and show extreme love. And those two usually make a combination for keeping children out of this. But I'm one to surveil. I'm one to know exactly what my children are doing. I definitely surveilled them. And I tell you, the joke was, oh my gosh, we're going over to Coffin Daffers. That's the FBI, Mom. Look out. And I can't tell you how many times I had the ear, the cup on the ear up against my son's, and there'd be a girl in there. And I'd like open the door, get out of here. So I think it really takes that close, that close looking out for and knowing what your children are doing.
It does. No, I mean, bravo.
And here we find out, thank you, Adrian, for gifting 5 memberships and welcome to the new members. Here we find out that Matthew's family was in the know of what he was doing. But again, it's to the point where it's like, how he got on that path, maybe they didn't see that coming, and then it was too late by the time they realize it. He's an adult, etc. So again, I definitely think that the parents' role and everything, and the mother there, she even described that she didn't know Matthew very well, and it's like, but okay, so she's 9 months pregnant by this person you never even thought in the last 9 months to kind of get to know him. So it does seem like there is some sort of detachment, perhaps. Again, I'm not trying to shame them, but if we are going to look at these crimes like we do, and we need to kind of learn things from it, these kids, they were kids. I know that they were legally adults and that they were going to be parents, but you think you're invincible at that point in your life as is. If you add in this type of lifestyle, where does that usually lead? So again, it's just unfortunate. And my mom definitely would pick up the phone, like if I was on it, and she'd be like, Amber, you need to get off. It's like, how long were you listening for?
To you both, knowing what your kids are doing, that surveillance, and and the way you do it, like Corey said, I love dropping some money in the door so that they open it. Dad was here, he's looking at what's going on. It's good for them to know and keep them close. And I love what you said there, Jennifer, striking that balance between being strict, having rules, and then also showing them love. So sad and heartbreaking for these families. Gotta leave it there. A big thank you to you both for lending us your expertise on this one. Corey Biggies, Jennifer Coffindoffer, thank you both kindly. When we come back after this break, we're going to look ahead to today's bond hearing for defendant Steve.
So that was the other thing that was mentioned that I can't remember the exact amount, but Judy, Ron, and other people kind of commented about how the bond for Christopher and his father seemed kind of low. I think the father's was $100,000 and then Christopher's was like $1 million. People were kind of surprised for capital murder and how egregious this crime was, that the bond was kind of set rather low. So what do you guys think as far as that? Now, I think we're going to switch up to some Epstein information. This is obviously information in a story that we've all kind of been seeing in documentaries and, in the forums, Facebook, everywhere we've talked about Epstein. And I can't help but think, with this being in an election year, why all of a sudden they're just now going to release, I think it was over 900 pages of documents. People are saying that there's some list that's been released. That list has been circulating for years. I'm not saying it's not real. I'm just saying that's not what the breaking news is. That has just been rehashed and put out there again as part of this stuff. But none of that list has been 100% confirmed, like in the 900-page court documents that were released. The court documents do name people that were on that list, but the breaking news for the Epstein stuff is simply based on the court records that have been made public. I have shared them in my Facebook group. I can link the Facebook group too. It's over 900 pages, and there are people mentioned in these documents, obviously, because it is the lawsuits and statements made by the victims of Ghislaine and Epstein and the people that they introduced them to. This whole case, I feel, is very political, obviously. There's people involved that are very, very, very powerful. So it's interesting to me how all this is coming out. And I think it's very much a distraction in a way. Like, we already knew a lot of these names and stuff, and it's just kind of rehashing old things. What I want to know is who put the hit out on Epstein. The information that he knew was very, very, I mean, we're talking about people who, presidents and princes and all that. Like him and Ghislaine had blackmail stuff for all these people. I mean, just think about the paintings that were found on the island. One being Bill Clinton in a dress that was supposed to kind of signify the dress from his scandal with Monica Lewinsky. There's also a painting of George Bush sitting on the floor like a child, and 2 Jenga towers knocked over while he's playing with paper airplanes. So what does all this kind of signify when it comes down to, this was in Epstein's possession and on his property? To me, it signifies that he knew very powerful people, and he knew information about them that other people and just everyday people just didn't know, or it would just blow up if he revealed a lot of the stuff that he knew. So there was more than 150 names associated with Epstein that were unsealed, I guess. And in these documents, they name those names. As part of the settlement between Virginia and Ghislaine, they exposed Clinton, Trump, Prince Andrew, Alan Dershowitz, and many more. I guess Clinton's, again, these are just part pages of Joanna. I think she's one of the victims. Said that one time that she had known that Bill Clinton likes them young, referring to the girls. Despite a photograph of the 3, one of the victims, Prince Andrew, and another person were all standing together, and Prince Andrew went on to say that he didn't know them. Again, just lies. David Copperfield was named. He was involved with young girls, apparently. They're coming out stating, let's see, what else? Michael Jackson, I guess, was named and was at Jeffrey's house in Palm Beach. One of the victims was asked if she massaged him. And of course, massage is a code name for something else. I think we can figure that out. And she said, I did not. Other people were named, of course. Former New Mexico Governor Bill Richardson was named. Who else? Oh, apparently this Alan Dershowitz is being accused of forced some minor, Jane Doe number 3. And it's just, you can just imagine the graphic details that were shared in this 900 pages. So again, I will link the Facebook group that has that lawsuit and all that information in it. Bill Clinton denied having any close relationship with him and said he cut ties with him before Epstein came under investigation. Clinton has publicly acknowledged his prior connection to Epstein and had praised him for his intelligence, finance work, and philanthropy. Trump was once boastful about his relationship and friendship with Epstein. He called him a terrific guy in 2002. Again, this all, of course, are politically charged individuals, and I don't mean I'm just stating what was in the documents. So we don't need to bring up political conversations and stuff like that. I just want you guys to know that this is just something I've been following for a while, and I think it's important to kind of go through it because it's breaking news and interesting. Trump also offered repeated well wishes for Ghislaine Maxwell after she was charged with helping Epstein. Later, Trump claimed to have cut ties with Epstein and reportedly barred him from his properties. And again, I had stated that Prince Andrew had no recollection of meeting one of these victims, even though there was like a photo of them together. He remained in touch with Epstein following his conviction, which in 2019, he said he regretted. So just very interesting. We can't turn a blind eye to that breaking news. So let me just share what Court TV had to say about it. And I'm curious what you guys have to say about it. None of it was really anything that was like, oh, wow, I didn't know that. You know, like this stuff has kind of been building up and simmering beneath the surface for a while. And people had their suspicions, and you know, a lot of people tried to say, no, it can't be, when speaking on some of these individuals that I've named. And the entire time was like, well, I wouldn't be surprised. And come to find out, I was right.
Been waiting for, it seems, for years, and certainly for all of this week, as the list of Jeffrey Epstein's
Hang on, guys. Court TV wants me to confirm it, even though I've started the video.
Crystal Rogers' death, Steve Lawson is set to have a bond hearing today at for years, and certainly for all of this week, as the list of Jeffrey Epstein's associates has finally been released. For more on that, let's head out to Montana now, where we find Scripps News correspondent Maritza Giorgio with the latest for us. Maritza, good morning to you.
Good morning to you, Julie. You know, a couple of things to make clear here. There has been so much speculation about a list of people associated with Epstein that will come out that might be incriminating. Well, I want to be clear, there's not really just a list of names. And just because a name is mentioned in this huge document dump doesn't mean there's anything incriminating against them. But we did see about 40 documents released.
And that's the other thing, too, to reiterate. Just because these names are out there and in these documents doesn't mean that they did what this person did and what that person did. Again, I believe the victims. If they said that they did it, then I have no reason to be like, she's lying, you know? But yeah, somebody stated something about he wasn't at the island, Trump wasn't at the island or whatever. Some of these people, they've said in these documents, and you guys can read them, some of them only were with Epstein in a plane. So yeah, there are some people who never went to the island, never went to his apartment, etc. But they have them having dinners and parties on the planes. So again, it's a hot topic. There's no reason for people to get upset about certain names that were mentioned. But again, these people might not have all done the same egregious acts. You know what I mean? But people were mentioned. Yeah, and that's the thing too, is one of the victims, thank you, Johnny, for bringing that up. It's come out in these documents that Ghislaine recruited one of these victims right from Mar-a-Lago.
It's almost 1,000 pages yesterday that shed some new light about the allegations against Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, his longtime co-conspirator. But much of it has already been previously reported. And that's honestly part of why the judge ordered these to be unsealed. But there are hundreds more documents to be released. The documents I went through last night included many reminders that Epstein surrounded himself with very high-profile, wealthy, powerful people. We are not going to mention every single name in this document dump, but many instances where we see the names we have already seen associated with Epstein. Think Prince Andrew. One deposition goes over specifics of an alleged encounter with him and a puppet, for instance. Two former presidents named in this, former President Bill Clinton's name, also former President Donald.
So the puppet scenario, I can't remember exactly what it was, but I think that there's some British comedian or something that uses puppets that look like these people. There was one of Prince Andrew. They go to this room and Prince Andrew has one of the victims on his lap, and then the victim is holding the puppet. And then there was like some touching with the puppet. And then the touching wasn't just to the puppet, it became to the victim as well. It was just this weird scenario, like where they're all like laughing, like, ah, ha, ha, ha. And it's just very creepy. And obviously they were grooming these young girls, and it's disgusting. And thank you, Adrian, for gifting more memberships. I really appreciate you. And welcome to the new members.
Trump in a story about stopping in Atlantic City on a plane ride to New York with former President Clinton. The reason we see so many mentions of his name is because Virginia Giuffre's lawyers wanted to depose Clinton as part of her defamation lawsuit, saying he was a key person who could provide information about his close relationship with the defendant and Mr. Epstein. Now, she didn't make any allegations of wrongdoing against Clinton or Trump, and at least 2 people asked their names to be redacted from this. They are for now, but that could be reversed later this month. And as we know, Ghislaine Maxwell is serving a 20-year sentence right now for sex trafficking. She is appealing to have that case dismissed. But keep in mind, whenever news involving Epstein and Maxwell comes out, it is very hard on the victims. I have spoken to many victims and their attorneys, but this all speaks to the public's fascination with this case and the public wanting to know more about how this could have happened. Julie?
I'm so glad you said that about the victims, Maritza. You're so right. That's really what this is all about. And hopefully everyone who was wronged can get through it and get the help that they need to continue with their lives. Maritza, Giorgio, always great to see you. Thank you so much for being live for us this morning. Take good care. I want to bring in now our guest to discuss this further. He is a trial attorney. He practices both criminal law, civil law. He's also a law professor at the great Temple University School of Law. And he's no stranger to high-profile cases. Mr. Dante Mills is joining us this morning. Good morning, Dante. Happy New Year to you. Can I start, please? Oh, thank you so much, friend. Can I start, please, with just getting your, I guess, most important thoughts on this? I loved what Maritza said a moment ago about how, we don't want to think anybody is guilty by association here. That's not how America runs. What are you thinking this morning? What do you think is important for the public to know as we continue to learn about more of these associates of Jeffrey Epstein's?
There's a couple of points that are very important, Juliana. One is I truly believe in our legal system, but our system provides innocence until proven guilty. These names and some of these names that are listed are going to be new to us, but they're not new to the prosecutors and the district attorneys that are involved in this case. So you have to believe that they went through all of this evidence, all of these names before, and if there was illegal activity that they could prove, they would have brought charges. But now that this list is public and this information is public, it's put into the court of public opinion, where you don't need to be proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. People can make assumptions. And I don't know if that's fair to the people that are listed in this list. Some of them who did not do anything illegal, but are going to be deemed guilty by association, like you just said. They may lose endorsements. They may lose deals because they rode in a plane that Epstein owned, even though they didn't participate in any illegal activity. So I think we need to be careful when we go through this list and make those associations. People are going to say, well, Bill Clinton, for example, was listed in there multiple times, and I know that means he was up to something. Well, actually, you don't know that because it could be a very normal reason why he was taking a plane from one place to another. So we have to be careful blaming people because the blowback, these lies, people's lives could be affected. Their livelihood can be affected.
Yeah, Bill Clinton might have just needed to take a plane, because they don't have the Air Force One for him or anything to use. Sorry. I know he's like right in what he's saying, but at the same time, it's like, I don't know. I don't think that it's just every single one of these people on this list of names was just some innocent person who needed a ride on a plane. But again, who knows?
Without them being proven guilty of anything. The second part to this, and is very important, are the victims. Like you just said, what we want to make sure and what we really want to get out of this is how they were courted, how these young women, these young girls were courted by Epstein and his associates. He did things like sent flowers to high school girls when they had events and things like that. I think that needs to be the focus. I think principals and parents need to look at how these girls were courted to make sure that this doesn't happen again and that we're protecting our children.
And how are they supposed to focus on things that Epstein was doing as far as grooming and stuff like that? Like, he's been killed. Like, I know people they've tried to say that he did it to himself. I personally don't think so. I think people in very higher up places did this to him. Again, to me, it's almost like, did the CIA, or I don't know, I don't want to be too conspiracy, but like, was he working for them and then they wanted means to like blackmail other people for, and Epstein was that reason or that key, and Epstein was kind of working with them to do all this type of stuff against these powerful people. I think that that's definitely a possibility. Hello, Florida Bass Fishing. Good to see you.
That's one thing that we can take from all this information that's coming out, the ways that they used these girls to court one another, and ways that we can prevent this from happening moving forward.
You're right, Dante. You're right. We all have a responsibility for our children in society. We've got to protect them and pay attention to what seems like warning signs. Better to have it investigated and to say something than to just let it go by and wonder. I have to ask you too, Dante, tell me, looking at it from the perspective of those people that have been named here, the famous names, surely it's probably very upsetting just to be discussed and to have people speculating, as you said, speculating as if there's been wrongdoing done. Some of the big names, David Copperfield's names mentioned, the famous hairdresser Frederick Fekkai, who sells all those hair products, Michael Jackson. Let's say, for instance, you're representing David Copperfield, and he knows his name's coming out in all this. What advice do you give him as his lawyer?
So with a lot of my high profile clients, what I tell them is you don't want to feed the beast, right? Because people are going to speculate, they're going to make assumptions. And if you get into defense mode and jump in, like, for example, attorney Alan Dershowitz seems to be doing, he said he wants the whole story out. His name was mentioned, but it raises more questions. Like, why are you so adamant to talk about this and to have a back and forth? So I would recommend to my clients in this situation not to respond, to understand that this information has been vetted by district attorneys and prosecutors. And if they don't see anything that you've done wrong, don't add anything to the story, and allow people to kind of shift the focus and move on to what the priority should be, which is the young girl. So I would recommend to my clients in a situation not to go on, a public opinion tour talking about how they're not related to him or not linked to him, because all that's going to do is bring more speculation and raise more questions.
Great advice, Dante. Thank you for that. We want to turn now to this morning's big hearing for defendant Patricia Ripley. She's the 47-year-old mother who's accused.
All right, so that's all I had on the Epstein edition. Let's switch over to Ruby Franke, Jodihildebrant. We know that there's plea deals being worked on. Jodihildebrant's niece, who has been very outspoken about what had happened to her from in the hands of Jody. And hello, CDT. Good to see you. I pinned my true crime group that shared the lawsuit in case you guys want to read the details stated in, like I said, it's over 900 pages, and it'll give you all the information that is out there about Epstein. So if you want to check that out, it is pinned and it's in chat right now, and join the discussion because we talk other cases in that group also. So back to Jody. Let me share my screen. Oh dear. Hang on. Oh yeah, that's right. This article had pictures of Jody's house. I do want to kind of pull this up. Multi-million-dollar property. It is on Zillow as we speak. Let me see and share the screen. Thanks for bearing with me, guys. Okay. Utah therapist. Jodihiledebrant's multi-million-dollar home put up for sale roughly 1 week after Jodihildebrant pleaded guilty to 4 charges of aggravated CA. Her 10,000 plus square foot home in Ivins, Utah has officially been put up for sale. As of Wednesday, January 3rd, 2024, the home of, and then it gives the address, was listed by, and then it gives the realty company. The listing describes the property as a true masterpiece with stunning features and finishes that will take your breath away. I mean, what kind of creepy, just knowing what we know. And hello, Pizza Chemist. Good to see you. And thank you for the memberships and welcome to the new members. What a kind of creepy way to kind of state something, like just knowing what we know took place inside that home, and how Ruby's own children were tied up and one of them had to run away. Yeah, exactly. RV said, doubt many are wanting to buy a house where children were tortured. Good grief. Right. I mean, and when you see this, like, yes, um, it's just a totally different type of house than what I'm used to seeing here on the East Coast. I mean, I'm in like the New England area. Our houses, although there will be modern ones, they look nothing like this type of architecture. So this architecture, I think, is kind of normal and standard for maybe Utah. And I don't know. If you guys are from there, let me know. But some of the rooms, I'm just like, oh, this does not look like a very warm like house. It just looks very much like it is like a torture chamber in some of the wings of it. Obviously, it's in a stunning location. Like, who wouldn't want to look out and just see all these mountains and stuff, you know? I'm not saying that it's not nice. It's just knowing what we know about it. Maybe that's what's maybe turning me off from the house. But some of the rooms are just like complete concrete, and it's just like it really does look like it's like a fancier, like, I don't know, like a safe house, like how people have panic rooms, or like a, I don't know, it's like a little jail. The property features 10,124 square foot living area, a 5-car garage, pool, hot tub, and more. And remember, guys, she was just a therapist. Like, she doesn't have her doctorate. We talked about the reviews on the website called jodihildebrant.com, and many former clients of hers would call her a scammer. It seems as though, from what we know, she went after some of the people in the Mormon church who did have money, and she kind of like sharked them. That's what I call it, I guess. We used to call that when I was a server and somebody would just keep taking in guests from the front house and put them in their section only and wouldn't let the hostess put them other places. They kind of sharked the tables. And it's just a greedy thing to do. And it's all about money. And I think that Jodi, on her own level, was sharking people in the Mormon church who might have needed counseling. And what do you know? They actually had a ton of money. And she raked them in and got a bunch of money from some of these victims and former clients. That house was a living nightmare, but so much money. I know. Like, how did she pull this off? All right. So let's see. Like, look at this. Like, it straight up listing photo shows an area of the home featuring a safe room, which was referenced in previous search warrants and reports. Aside from YouTube videos that show parts of Hildebrandt's home, the home was also the center of CA investigation regarding Ruby Franke's children, who were found emaciated, malnourished, and after one of them escaped in late August to call for help. Some of the photos in the listing areas that were previously described as a safe room in some of the early police reports and search warrants on the case. And then this is the listing property description. So this is what they're trying to sell this home as. Welcome to your new home. This property is a true masterpiece with stunning features and finishes that will take your breath away. As you step inside, you'll be greeted by solid mahogany doors that add to the home's luxurious feel. The multiple skylights allow natural light to pour in, making the room feel bright and airy. The electric blinds throughout the home allow you to control the amount of light that comes in and add to the home's modern feel. Now, see, I think looking back, it's like, oh gosh, were those electric blinds being used to kind of make sure nobody saw what was going on in there? Not that there's very many neighbors around, but dang. The main floor boasts 12 to 15 foot ceilings, ceramic tile flooring, and a gourmet kitchen with top of the line Wolf, Bosch, and Sub-Zero appliances. The kitchen features a gas stove, double ovens, one convection and one steam convection oven, and a farmhouse stainless steel sink. The butler's pantry is perfect for additional storage and features a dishwasher, fridge, microwave, and generous counter space. The master suite is a true oasis. Okay, so how long is this? Let's just look at the photos. Hold on, I got these.
I'm not.
Of course, it's got to load an ad. She probably controlled the blinds, like opened them super early and kept them open late.
Jodi Hildebrandt's multi-million-dollar
Right?
home is up for sale.
This comes about a week after she pled guilty to 4 charges of aggravated assault. The 10,000 plus square foot Ivins home was listed by Fathom Realty for a hefty $5.3 million. Aside from YouTube videos that shows parts of Hildebrandt's home, the home is also the center of the child abuse investigation regarding 2 of Ruby Franke's children who were found emaciated and malnourished after one of them escaped in late August to call for help. The full description of that home that is now on the market is on our website, KUTV.com.
I'm just going to skip that because he's literally repeating what I just read. And let's just look at the photos. So obviously the bathroom. So the Frankie's child ran to a neighbor's house. So not very many neighbors, but there are people there. That is one of the bedrooms. I mean, to me, it just looks so not comfortable. And I don't think it's just because of what took place there. I just think it's just not my cup of tea, maybe. What do you guys think? Let's see. Again, that looks beautiful. Like I could spend a lot of time out there. It's just unfortunate knowing what took place. Yeah, it's like a jail in the desert. It's like a jail in the desert, but then it has like these vibes here. And it's like, I would love that. You know what I mean? Too much brown, personally, I think, inside the home. And again, there's like a whole Zillow link that I can link and you guys can look through them if you want. Actually, I think I have that. Actually, let me just play this.
Yeah, that's great.
It's only 10 minutes. This is Long Crime. Thank you guys for bearing with me. This is just a laid back live stream, kind of summing up multiple things. So we are bouncing around.
Really kind of lifted off my shoulders, and a lot of this subconscious fear that somehow she was going to be able to
This is the
kind of
niece.
wiggle her way out of any accountability, slowly lifted. Yeah, so I was able to speak to the DA a little bit that evening, and he informed me that the likelihood of her getting maximum sentencing is incredibly high, that she's most likely going to be getting the 60 years.
Wow, that we were wondering that because again, 15 years is the max on each
Yeah.
each charge. And again, look, the way that we understand it as well, from Utah law is it really isn't the judge who sets it. It's more.
So she's hearing through the grapevine again. This is a niece of Jodi. Jessie, that she will be facing the full wrath and possibly 60 years. So again, I mean, we knew that she was facing that. I guess I should rephrase that. It seems like Jessie is under the impression that that's what she'll be handed. I'm going to put the Zillow of Jodi's house in chat right now as this plays. So if you guys want to look at the house on your own time, it'll be there.
Or like this is what punishment is, and It's up to a board to determine if she'll ever be granted parole. So, I mean, that's our
Yeah.
understanding about it.
Yeah, so he also told me that it's about 8 months from now that that board will be put together, and that's going to be like the first parole hearing will be in
Okay, so the link is too long for me to post in the chat. Let me just, I'll put it in the comment section or the description box, and I can pull it up too.
as little as 8 months.
Yeah.
And that's what we're going to be focusing, like what the DA said to be focusing on, like having a written statement of harm and showing up to those hearings. And hopefully that after this first one, that it will be pushed years down the line.
Well, first of all, were you there when she pled guilty, and do you plan to appear at her sentencing?
I was not there. I didn't want to be there. Or at least I was pretty torn on whether I wanted to be there or not. I won't be there for her sentencing simply because of just the timing of it. I'll be in Europe. I would have liked to be there for the sentencings. I will be there for the parole hearing, most likely. That's, I think, where a lot of victims, like that's the important time for the victims to come forward and to convince the board that she doesn't deserve any sort of parole.
I thought it was really interesting when you said that it didn't seem genuine, her reason for pleading guilty. Obviously, from a legal point of view, there's a number of reasons why I think she did it. You had Franke agreeing to testify against her. Evidence looks really bad, but you don't believe in any way, she feels bad about what happened.
Not even a little bit. No, it's so wild because something that she would constantly accuse me of when I was living with her. So when the abuse started getting really bad, people in my church started noticing that I didn't look well and that something was wrong. And they started talking to the bishop or the pastor, the person in charge of our ward, just like their concerns. And the Bishop Bangader, told Jody these people's names, and then we would go to their home, and she would coach me in the car and tell me exactly what I was going to say, and then she would go in with me, and I would have to apologize to them for manipulating them into feeling sorry. I believed that Jesus was working through Jody, and that Jody was saving me, and so it's just darkly ironic that watching her in the pews, like at the sentencing, just like looking so sad, and then telling like her attorney coming out and saying something like that. It's just like, wow, oh, you're manipulating all that time you were telling me that that's what I was doing was just your projection, because that's what you would do and are doing. Like, it's like you don't get accused and like convicted of child torture and then suddenly are like, oh, I just really care about these children's healing. Like, that's not what happens.
Yeah.
You don't go 15 years of having this be a pattern and then suddenly be like, I just really care about these children. That's not possible.
And I wanted to ask you about that because now that the plea agreements have been entered, these court documents have been filed, and we now know more details about what happened to these kids. I mean, talking about Jodi Hildebrandt, as I mentioned earlier on in the show, she either physically forced or coerced a 9-year-old girl, Eve, to jump into a cactus multiple times. These two children were dehydrated. They weren't given food. They were made to work outside in the heat. Did it seem worse what happened to these kids, or just eerily similar to what you went through?
So a lot of it was similar. There were certain specifics that were not. I went on News Nation to give a statement right after the plea, and I didn't know about the cactus, and they had spoken about it right before they brought me on, and it was horrifying to hear about. Not surprising, but horrifying nonetheless. She's one of the most convincing, powerful humans you will ever meet. And when you are in a state of vulnerability, especially as a child, she can convince you of anything. I mean, I worked out in her garden in the middle of the summer. Like, we didn't live in southern Utah, so it was not as hot or as dry, but I was working out in her yard all summer. And, she used, withholding food, withholding water as a way of force. I mean, she would, she'd duct tape me and tied me up, but I was also a teenager. There's a very big difference between being 16 and going through something like this and being a 9-year-old. Like, there's just no way of comparing those two things.
It was horrifying. For me, I think it was worse than I even imagined. I mean, talking about just the injury sustained, what these kids went through, not even the physical trauma, the emotional, mental trauma as well. And you've talked about that as well.
Yes. The emotional and spiritual abuse. I mean, it took me, I mean, I'm still in therapy every week for it. There's no, and again, it was almost 15 years ago, and I'm still daily, like, I mean, through this experience, 4 months, there's been a tremendous amount of healing on my end, which just goes to show how important accountability is for the victims.
Right.
But no, I mean, this doesn't, the invisibility of harm almost, it makes it even worse, because you know, if those kids didn't have those horrifying physical marks on their bodies, would this ever have been intervened?
Yeah, I mean, like, I think about that, whether if Russell never escaped, what would have happened. Look, I know we have to let you go, but I did want to ask you real quickly about something that really struck me and how this all went down is that Ruby Franke pled guilty. She was going to testify against Jodi Hildebrandt, but her lawyers, right before the plea agreement, or before the plea hearing, they released this statement, and I read it in part, and it says, again, initially, Miss Franke believed that Jodi Hildebrandt had the insight to offer a path to continual improvement. Miss Hildebrandt took advantage of this quest and twisted it into something heinous. Over an extended period, Miss Hildebrandt systematically isolated Ruby Franke from her extended family, older children, and her husband, Kevin Franke. This prolonged isolation resulted in Miss Franke being subjected to a distorted sense of morality shaped by Miss Hildebrandt's influence. What is your reaction to Ruby Franke throwing Jodi Hildebrandt under the bus and was going to testify against her?
Yeah, no, it's hearing that Ruby was going to testify against Jodi just shows me that they had a lot more on Jodi. Like, the fact that Jodi got off on only 4 counts of child abuse, which is significant, and in my opinion, nothing compared to what they probably had on her. And as I want to say that Ruby is an adult. Ruby is the mother, you know, she is responsible for her children, and she is responsible for what happens to her children. Full stop. And I fully agree. Like, I can completely understand where he is coming from in that statement. I don't agree with her not having responsibility. She deserves every one of those counts of child abuse. But Jodi is one of the most manipulative, and it is systematic. And I know that the last time that I was on here, I talked about how it was with me. It's like line upon line, precept upon precept conditioning. It's like you're this frog being boiled alive in water so slowly that you don't realize it's happening until it's already happened.
Jesse, before I let you go, one last quick question. You mentioned what the prosecutor said could be a potential sentence for Jodi Hildebrandt, maximum. Did the prosecutor give you any indication about what the potential sentence for Ruby Franke would be?
I didn't ask, honestly.
Right.
Just that's not the connection I have to this case.
I gotcha. Jesse Hildebrandt, again, thank you so much for coming on. So sorry again for everything that you've gone through and you're continuing to go through, especially as this case became so national and became on the forefront and the conversation developed about it. But again, thank you so much for your bravery to come on, speak about what happened, and we wish you the best of luck as this case progresses.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Yeah, she has just been a really interesting advocate for Ruby's children. I don't even think she definitely has never even met them, but her insight and everything that she knew from Jodi has really shed a lot of light to the public. And I think that Jesse doesn't realize how much she actually has helped even us kind of understand, like, how does this happen with this type of woman? And she's kind of shown us how heartless and revealed things to us that only a victim of Jodi could do. And yeah, what a strong lady for sure, Karen. Yeah, I think she is, but it's something that's being worked on. She said she goes to therapy like every week or something. All right. And I'm also curious too, what okay, so Ruby and her husband he filed for divorce. Since everything is coming out the way it is and everything's unraveling the way it is, will that divorce still proceed, you guys think? Or will Ruby and her husband kind of make up and put all this stuff behind them, especially when Jodi is behind bars? All right. Let's read what some of these comments are on that. It's this TikTok video. Makes me sick thinking about what corner and closet those children were held in. Yes, it's beautiful. Now it should be bulldozered. Is that blood stain on the floor by the toilet at 1 minute, 35 seconds? That basement looks like a literal prison. Yeah, exactly. No competent realtor would stage a home with that purple bedding. Is it the actual bedding from Jodi? Wouldn't want it if it was given to me. Evil lurks around every corner. Who's going to buy a CA home? We'll find out. Yeah, it does look cultish, everyone's saying. I agree. But again, another case that we covered in 2023. New developments we'll follow and keep up with. We'll see if Jodi actually faces the full 60 years that she deserves, if not more. And we'll see what ends up happening with Ruby and all that. Is she completely done with her husband, Kevin? Or what will happen? Again, I kind of want to see if the daughter has posted anything on Instagram, because she didn't. Like, she posted something in October. Okay, yes. So her last post that we talked about here live was October 16th, which was a day before the court hearing in regards to the custody battle of the children. And then she went off social media and we didn't hear from her. And then looks like there is photos that she posted on December 3rd, photos of her siblings. The holidays are full of mixed emotions for me. I am so grateful for all the memories I have to hold on to as pictured above. And I also look forward to the memories I know I can create. How have your traditions changed as you've gotten older? And she's just shared photos of her and her siblings. So a lot of stuff going on, even for this young woman. She's, I think, 20. So just feel very sorry for her, because there's going to be a lot for her to kind of still process, even as the older sibling. All right. Well, I think that will conclude our live stream. Again, we've covered Savanah and Matthew's case in the beginning, first 35 minutes or so for those who joined late. Then we kind of went into a bit of Epstein. And that information, again, join my Facebook group that I linked and pinned in the chat, and I will pin it in the comment section in case you want to read through that 900-page document. Again, you can find it on Google easily. But if you join a Facebook group, we can talk about other cases on a Facebook platform instead of just covering stuff here live twice a week, which will be Tuesday and Fridays usually. We are coming back through the Watts case with my dear friend CDT. So feel free to join us for those deep dives. Again, it's a case that we just can't get enough of as far as the questions and wondering why things kind of unraveled the way they did. I know sometimes a case kind of grabs a hold of you, and that's definitely done that for us and many of you guys who join us. But we are going to keep up with the other developing stories that are out there, which I can cover on other nights. And again, thank you guys for being here. Thank you to everyone who gifted those new memberships. And Roxanne, if you're still listening, I see you actually. Hi. I saw you earlier, but I wanted to thank you for the Cash App that you sent for my little one's birthday. She is turning 3 years old next Saturday. And I just thank you so much for sending that. It's not easy having a child with a birthday right after Christmas. I'm realizing that very soon, and it's only been like 2 years. But we will talk very soon, everybody. And again, like I said, join the Facebook group and we can talk in there, because I'm in there every day sharing stuff. So we'll see you guys later. Thank you.